Hope you guys have all been able to enjoy some sort of spring break or pre-summer break. The weather has just been beautiful in Minnesota lately, so it's been super, super fun for us, but we are actually going to be away next week doing some relaxing of our own, so that's going to be really exciting. Just wait for a few more folks before we get started, and hopefully it will be clearer vision by the time we start. Alrighty, it is 8 p.m. on Thursday. It is wonderful to have all of you guys on the line. And if you're watching the recording later, thank you so much for doing that. I hope that you enjoy this topic today. Now, it certainly isn't one of the most exciting around taxes, but it's incredibly important that we talk about this tax topic, what to do with your refund, what to do if you end up owing a lot, and then, of course, what to do if you can't pay off what you end up owing. All right, so let's dive in and get a little closer into this topic. What are the 5 things that you can do if you get a refund? Now, I have to tell you, to be honest, I kind of hate those articles about what to do if you get a refund. I'm not very interested in them because honestly, it's always save, 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 save. And to me, when I get a refund, I always feel like it's getting free money back. Now, I know it isn't free money. I understand that the government has had it, and I totally understand the arguments that people have to say, wouldn't you rather get less back on your taxes and earn more interest on it in your bank account? I get it, I get it, I get it. However, to me, it's money that I haven't budgeted for. So anything that comes back as a refund to me feels like something extra, something special. That's why my first suggestion is that you do something fun, do something particularly enjoyable that you may not be able to do otherwise, whether that's putting it towards a trip, putting it towards a dinner out, whatever it may be that really gives you joy. Now, I didn't say spend the whole thing on something that gives you joy, but just spend that small amount. That's why I'm really into percentages, especially when it comes to tax refunds. Take a small piece and put it towards something you'll enjoy. Maybe you take 30%, maybe you take 50%, whatever feels right to you, and put it towards something you're excited about. All right, so you've taken out for fun, so now that's off of your plate. What else should you use it for? Now, these might be a little generic, but I think it's important to have a reminder. Debt repayment is a really key thing that I would put this extra money towards. If you're looking to repay your credit card debt, student loan debt, maybe any medical debt that you have, this is a really great way to handle it with this little extra boost. It can really boost your snowball effect if you're using that snowball method to repay your debt. And it can give you a leg up. You might even be able to pay your debt sooner than you expected because you put these extras toward it. The other thing that you might consider is bulking up your emergency fund. Again, this is another fund that could really use that extra boost. I have to admit, most of us, myself included, have not reached that 3 to 6 month threshold of expenses, so having a little bit more money to put towards your emergency fund can certainly be a good thing. Another thing I often see people spend their tax refunds on are larger home purchases. For instance, if you've been putting off buying an appliance, that might be something, or you're putting it towards repairing your roof or your gutters. Maybe you have a home project you've been putting off. This might be one good thing to put towards it. And the last suggestion I have for you, number 5, and honestly, I think this one's the most fun, but I tend to be a giver at heart, is give some of it away. As you're thinking about percentages, put a small portion, whether that's 5%, 10%, whatever feels right to you, and give it away to a cause that you and or your spouse care about. It is so wonderful to be able to give back when these extras come into your life. Alrighty, so those are the 5 things to do with your refund. Now let's check in on what you should do if you had to pay a lot in. Now, if you've been watching the news, you've probably heard that a lot of people ended up in this situation this year, and it's incredibly unfortunate the way that the tax law has impacted some folks. It's given them quite a bit back, and other folks, it's been a pretty big surprise that they needed to pay a lot in. Here are a couple things to do. Of course, this isn't going to help you for 2018 taxes because that, of course, is already over in terms of how much you're going to owe, but these things can help you for 2019 and going forward. The first thing that I suggest you do, and please do read my blog article for this week on this topic, is check your withholdings. Check the amount that your employer is withholding from your paycheck for tax. Likely, if you had to pay quite a bit in, that means that you likely had your withholdings a little bit off. So maybe you might need to take some more exemptions and not necessarily have as much in your paycheck every month. Now, that may mean, again, that your budget is a little bit smaller, but to not have a surprise bill at the end of next year is probably a good thing too. The next thing to consider is for those of you who are self-employed, can you set aside some of your money from your side hustle or home business? Now, what am I talking about here? Oftentimes, I meet people, myself included, who have a side hustle. They're really excited about it. They're earning some cash. They're interested in how this is going to go. But they start earning money, they start earning more significant money, and maybe they're freelancing and they're getting a 1099 from an employer, but they're not setting aside that amount for taxes. Generally, you're going to want to set aside about a third to 30%, depending on your tax bracket for those taxes. Now, I have a separate savings account in my bank account where I put all of my tax money for my side hustle, and then whatever's left over at the end of tax season, that's what my husband and I call our tax refund. We always overestimate a little bit. That way we make sure we're fine no matter what happens. Number 3, if you're finding that you're really having troubles with owing more, something you might consider, especially if you are self-employed or have self-employment income, is paying estimated taxes throughout the year. This is where you pay on a quarterly basis, sending in taxes to your state as well as to the federal government, so that you've got those estimated taxes kind of stacked up for when your other taxes are due April 15th. And of course, anything that you've overpaid, you will make sure to get back. The last thing that I would suggest is if you're really not sure exactly how this is working, if you don't know exactly why you are having to pay all this in and you've tried a few things and you're just not sure, really do contact a tax expert. If you have an accountant already doing your taxes, likely they can give you a little survey on what's happening. But if you're like me, I do my taxes myself using TurboTax. Again, not an ad, but just letting you know how I do it. TurboTax can help me figure this out, or what I might do is just hire an accountant's time for just an hour or so to take a look at my tax return and give me some suggestions so that next year I don't have that same bill. Last but not least, making sure that it's shorter this week, because I know we've been going long the last couple, is what do you do if you can't pay off your tax bill? So let's say you file your taxes, you get a $3,000 bill. This actually happened to my husband and I a few years ago. It was terrible. And our accountant said to us, no worries, you got a few days to pay this off. You should be fine. You don't need to do this right away. We had 3 days. 3 days to come up with $3,000. It was so scary. So what do? In our case, luckily, we were able to take from savings, and that would be something that I suggest to people. Don't borrow if you don't have to. Take from savings first. Of course, borrowing from your emergency fund is never fun, but take from your savings and then make a goal to repay that back. Now, let's say you don't have any savings that you can take from, or you have some, but not enough. A couple of things to think about. First, file by the deadline, even if you can't pay. So make sure you file by the deadline, and then also file for an extension in payment. Now note, we're not doing an extension for the tax filing, that's a whole different process, but an extension in terms of how long you have to pay. Now I don't know the exact amounts. I was reading online, it looked like somewhere between 60 and 90 days, somewhere in there for the extension, and maybe that can help you to come up with the money. Pay as much as you can at the outset, and then keep paying. One thing that I saw as I was doing research for this was work with the IRS. The IRS is actually your friend in this scenario. Of course, they want that money coming in, so they can work with you to create a payment plan that works for your needs. So if you're struggling and you're nervous, you're not sure how you're going to pay it back, use the IRS as your ally. Make them your friend in this situation, create a plan that works for you, and then of course, go back to what we were just talking about. Visit with an accountant, do your research on your withholdings, see why you had such a high tax bill, and make sure that's repaired for the next year. Alrighty, that is all I've got in terms of tax content this week. If you guys have any questions, feel free to submit them. I am not able to give tax advice, and I am not an accountant, but I'm happy to help you find answers or point you in the right direction if I don't know. The last thing I want to share with you guys is about speaking. I absolutely love speaking. I'm sure you've noticed that as you've watched my live. Speaking is the joy of my life. I actually had the opportunity to do a speaking gig today on a Thursday, believe it or not. I spoke with a Rotary Club this morning at 7 in the morning, and it was just so enjoyable. We were talking about how to retire successfully. I had such a fun time with this group. If you haven't been to my website recently, I've been updating my speaking page with testimonials and more information on what I could talk to your group about. So please, please, please check it out. I'd love to come speak to your group on the topics that interest you most. My biggest topic is how to make money your friend in life, work, and love, and I'd absolutely love to share that message with your group. Alrighty, I hope tonight's live was helpful. Again, submit any questions if you have them. Thank you so much for joining me, and have a great evening.